This tutorial we're going to show you how to load a pre-registration page to your website to allow your players to pre-register for your tournament pool. If you haven't already, you may want to go back and review some of the previous tutorials on how to set up your pool options. If you're using the internet add-on, how to go ahead and configure the internet add-on, as well as the option to build your website. So if you haven't yet reviewed those, you may want to go back and take a look at those tutorials. We're going to pick up at this point now. We're ready to actually go ahead and post the pre-registration page to our website. And the pre-registration process is very similar. In fact, it's pretty much identical to how you would go about uploading your actual entry page once the pairings come out. But for now, we're gonna focus on how just to go ahead and post a registration page before the pairings are announced. So in this situation, we're going to kind of play this out as if we have no pairings yet loaded into our pool. So at this point, we don't have any pairings information in our pool, so there's really no way we can create an entry sheet yet. But we want to go ahead and let players come to our website and at least pre-register for it, so we kind of know who might be wanting to get into our pool. So to start the deploy process, we're going to select the remote menu and deploy via web. And this is going to walk us through the deploy via web wizard, which will let us go through and build our pre-registration page and post it to our website. Now the example that I'm running here, I've already set up my FTP manager settings to use the Tourney internet add-on, but this process will be basically the same regardless of whether you're using that or whether you are using your own website to host your web pages. You have some options here now on which method of web deployment you'd like to use, and depending on your level of expertise, kind of really determines how you want to use this. If you're using the internet add-on, your best option is to use the basic, and the program will kind of work with that basic option to post a page on the mysiteline.com website, and it works real well. If you don't have your own website at all, the simple is all you really need to use to get this feature to work, because all you have to have is an email address. And then the advanced method would be if you have your own website and you can run scripts on that website, that will let you go ahead and run everything kind of all encompassing on your own web server. So that's kind of the more advanced mode of how to do that, and you'll need to have some pretty knowledgeable experience on how to manage script files and HTML files on your website. For this example, we're going to go ahead and use the basic, which is probably recommended for most people, and we'll just select the next option here. And now because I'm using the internet add-on, it's defaulting my information here to what I'm using in my internet add-on account. And so I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. If I was not using the add-on, I would just want to specify which email address here, excuse me, that I want to use to control kind of where my picks go. I have an option whether or not to include a copy of the picks to each player as they register or as they enter their picks. Generally, I would suggest that you don't use that option because it may give them kind of a false impression that you've actually received their entry. Because really, until you download the entry into your pool, you don't really have that entry accepted yet. And there's a better way using the remote menu and kind of the email confirmation tool to send out the player picks, a copy of the picks to each player, and it's in a lot better format than they would get if you use this option. The other option you have is the receipt mode, and the all entries in one file is by far the most recommended. That way you can just download all the entries at once from a file. If you choose each entry by email, every time someone enters, you'll have to get a copy of that email and kind of copy and paste into the program. It's a little more tedious, so generally the all entries in one file is the best way to receive the entries. And we'll select next. And now we have some options for the actual entry page itself. And since right now I'm just going to be doing a pre-registration page, instead of having a title of enter your picks, I'm going to change this to be a title of pre-register. And for the pre-registration, I'm not going to be using any deadlines. I'll cover that in another tutorial when we actually get ready to post the entry page. And then the redirect options is you can choose after they submit their pre-registration, they get a confirmation page, and this determines what happens on that confirmation page. Either they stay there, or you can display a redirect link back to maybe your pool page, or maybe back to another website, or you can have it do an immediate redirect and go somewhere else as soon as they submit their pre-registration. So a lot of times you might be best to put in the URL of your of your pool website here and select either the redirect or the immediate redirect. So we're going to go ahead and use the redirect hyperlink, and I'm going to put in the URL of my website. So after the player submits their pre-registration, they'll have a link that comes right back to the pool website. And we'll select next. And now we have some options here on what kind of information we want to collect from the people. This is basically showing what I entered into my player setup, which we covered in a previous tutorial. So you can choose which things you want to collect from each player, and for the most part you'll want to collect pretty much everything that you have set up. But the only time you may not want to include something is if maybe you have a field for whether or not they've paid their entry fee, and you probably wouldn't want to let your players decide how that field is set up. So you can choose here which fields to show on the entry page, as well as whether or not they're required. And in my pool here, I'm just going to require the email address. Now we have some other options here, whether or not we want to allow players to attach comments. This will just display them a message and ask them if they want to go ahead and send you kind of a message as you process the entry. A message will pop up letting you know what that player has to say. And then you have some options here about using a drop-down list for the player information. For now, since we're only pre-registering and we haven't loaded any players into our pool yet, we're going to leave that unchecked. And this comes into play later on when we actually generate our entry page with the picks, and we'll cover that later. So we'll select next then. And we have some places to put in some additional comments that we want to show to our players on these pages. You can generate some sample text in these fields, and then you can change this to be anything you want to show up on the entry page. And select next. Now the program knows that there are no pairings yet, so it's giving us the option of either creating a pre-registration page or just displaying a generic entry page. The generic entry page will just say that there's no pairings yet, come back later when the pairings are available to make your picks. So you have that option, or you can go ahead and allow your players to pre-register, which is the option we're going to use here. The confirm settings just shows you basically a summary of what you have selected up to this point through the wizard, and we'll select next. So now we're at the generate components page, where it tells us basically what it's going to do when you select the finish button. It's going to create basically a web page that allows for people to enter their pre-registration information. And it tells you a little bit about how to go about collecting those pre-registrations, and we'll show you that in just one second. And then you specify where you want these pages saved on your computer before it uploads them. And I'm going to go ahead and just leave that as the default. And I want to include my entry page in my web report package. What that means is that if you remember back on the build website, there was an option to include the entry page in our website. Selecting this option will basically link your entry page into your website, so your players have a link to the pre-registration and entry page right from your website, versus just having a single page out there where people can go and pre-register and make their picks. So we're going to go ahead and select that option so it gets integrated in with our website. And so now that I'm set that up and I'm done with that, I'm going to select finish. And it's now asking me if I want to go ahead and upload my pre-registration page, and I'm going to say yes. So it's uploaded my page to my website, and here it is now. So I'm on my website now, and this is where people would come to pre-register for my pool. And as you'll notice, though, it's just a single page with no other links kind of to the rest of my website. And the reason for that is because we need to go back to the build website again for the entry page just to be included into our website. So to do that, I'm just going to go back to Tourney and do just like I did before, the tools and build website. And now if you'll notice, my entry page before was not available, and now I've got this option because I've created that entry page. And so to get it integrated into my site, I can just build the website again and upload it to my website. And now when my website is displayed, I'm going to have that link to that pre-registration page that was not there before. So now here's my website again with all the information I had before, but now I have a new link to my entry page, or right now it's my pre-registration page, because I've now linked those two together. And so by selecting that, I go right back to my entry page. So at this point, people can pre-register now for my pool. and select register. And because I gave that option whether or not I wanted to allow them to send a message, they get this prompt that comes up if they want to send me a message, and I'll say yes. And so now the pre-registration is complete, and if you remember, we selected that redirect link, so here's the return to my pool page that they can select to come right back to the website. And so we have now one person who is pre-registered for our pool, but we have not yet loaded that pre-registration yet into my pool file. So if I come back to Tourney now, if I see there's still no players, because that pre-registration has only been done on the website. We have not yet downloaded that into our pool. And to do that, we just go back and select the remote menu, and then load web pics from TurboTourney.com. Now it's telling me the first time here that I have to establish a password using the control panel. So it takes me to the control panel where I need to collect the password for this pool, for this specific tournament. And the reason we do this is to make sure that someone is not using your email address kind of for the wrong reason and getting pics that way. So we ensure that the password is sent to you at your email address and that you have access to that email. So to get the password, we just click on the Get Password button, and it tells us it's been mailed to, that password has been mailed to us at our email address. And to make sure that if we have any spam filters or bulk email filters, that we verify that, because a lot of times that email message will get kind of caught up in the bulk email folder. So at this point, you would want to go out to your email program, check your email for that message, and get the password that was sent to you. In this case here, I've got my password, and I'm just going to key it in here. And once I enter my password, now I can go over here and check the status of my my pool. And it's telling me I've got one entry out there waiting for me, and this happens to be a pre-registration. And I have some options of downloading that entry, emailing it, or going and resetting that file if I want to get rid of what's out there. And so I'm going to go ahead at this point, just close this window. And what I'm going to do now to get those pics is go back to the remote menu, load web pics from TurboTourney.com that I tried before. And now it's telling me, okay, you have no pairings, and I should enter those first, unless I'm just loading players who have pre-registered via the web, which is what I'm doing. So I'm going to say okay to that. And that brings up the load web pics. And all I need to do here now is select download entries, which will download any entry files or pre-registrations that I have on my website, and start import. And so now I see here, if you remember when I filled out that pre-registration, I had that comment that I supplied, and this is where it shows up for you as the pool manager to see what that person had to say for a comment. And so I basically have now imported that entry, and it's asking me if I want to reset my entry file. If I say yes, the pre-registration that was on my website will be removed, and I won't get that the next time I download. If I say no, it will stay on the website, and I'll get it again the next time I download. So if you're just out here trying to see like how many people you've had pre-registered, but you don't want to actually load the people into your pool completely yet, you can just say, say no to this, and then just don't save your pool file. But for the most part, after you've downloaded the entries and loaded them, you'd want to reset it so that you don't get those entries again next time. So we're going to say yes, go ahead and reset my file, and I get just a summary here that I've imported one person or one entry from my site. And I can see here now Jim Smith is now in my pool, and if I look at his information, I can see his name that he supplied, as well as his email address that he provided when he pre-registered. So if I had multiple people, they would all have downloaded into the program. But that's how you would get people who have pre-registered into your pool. And what you can see here is that Jim Smith has no pics yet. And that's because all we've done is pre-register. And so in the next tutorial, we're going to show you how to go ahead and download the pairings and post an entry page so that your players can actually submit their pics. But this was just a quick overview then of how you would go about using the pre-registration option. Thank you.